My native language is ASL and English. I learned both at the same time. I learned American Sign Language through my parents, my grandparents, and through other members of my family, as we have multiple deaf individuals in our family, so we used it growing up. I also went to school, a school for the deaf, where we used American Sign Language. I do have a CDI certification. I'm a certified deaf interpreter via the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf. The certification for deaf interpreters involves a written examination and then performance examination through your actual skill of certification that's videoed. And if you pass the written exam as well as performance examination, then you are certified. Education and background. I graduated from a school for the deaf. And after I completed high school, I went to CSUN in Southern California and did my bachelor's in science there. And then stayed there to complete my master's degree. My master's degree is in deaf studies. And I completed that 4 years ago. As far as additional training goes, with my college degree, I've been to multiple other trainings and have other certifications. For example, I'm certified in wilderness first responders, and those types of certifications I have been involved in, but they're not formal education. As far as how often I've interpreted in court, I would say 15 to 20 years. I've been in district courts, state courts, federal courts, all of those. I've done like pre-trial conferences, status reviews, those types of things. In my experience, I would say I've done 2 trials. But they were 1-day trials. I did one 3-day trial as well. I don't see that I could be a potential witness for this case. There's a possibility of conflict of interest. I don't know that there is a perceived conflict of interest. I know that there could be a perceived conflict of interest, not an actual one though, because in my view I don't have an actual one, but I have been a member of our community and I have functioned within our community, so there could be that perception, but I don't feel that it will have any impact on my ability to interpret, and there's no actual conflict of interest. The perceived is that possibility of my membership within the deaf community. The civil, I would say that it is important to be able to interpret both simultaneous and consecutive, but it's more effective in consecutive interpreting. I found that since that is more consecutive, to complete most of my work into consecutive interpreting. So I'll have the hearing interpreter interpret to me, and then we'll hold for just a moment while I interpret for the deaf consumer. If I am tactile interpreting for a person who is deaf and blind, then I think simultaneous interpreting could work, but in this situation I think we need consecutive interpreting. And I would work mostly with consecutive interpreting. In fact, the probability is that it would all be consecutive interpreting because it's the best approach for us in this setting, and particularly for me as a deaf interpreter, so that I can pay very close attention to what the hearing interpreter is interpreting to me and provide a render accurate interpretation. I have worked here in the court system and been voir dire by a judge and was able to continue interpreting in that situation. In regards to training within the court system, I have extensive training via workshops, as well as going through our state process to be court qualified as an interpreter in the courtroom. I've completed their orientation training as well as the ethics exam and met all the other requirements to be approved as a court interpreter in the state of Utah. Have I ever been convicted or arrested for any crime? Yes, but there was no evidence, so I was released. I feel strongly that all interpreters should follow our code of professional conduct, except that is an obligation on our part. The stakes are very high when you are providing legal interpretation, and it's important that we each are responsible for our own work. And I always take the oath prior to coming in to interpret in the court, and that I will interpret to the best of my ability. I think that it's a serious oath that we take, because you realize that if you do make an error, it's our responsibilities, our ethical responsibility, and our moral responsibility as well to inform the court that we have made an error, even if we have to stop and go back and make the correction. And I would ask the judge to do that so that the correct work can be included in the record. Thank you.